I believe there's so much power in using your voice to speak out against injustices. Shit that ain't right. Shit that's fucked up. So this episode is giving strong, it's giving short, just like me. Strong and short. In our world, the world that we're living in right now, and in our families that we belong to, and our friendships that we're in the business relationships we have, and the intimate relationships that we're in, like shit don't always be going right. And there are injustices in these places. And I feel like it's one of the hardest things to tap into when it comes down to speaking out against things that aren't right. And I want to start with the backlash of it all. I think about, I've shared before in previous episodes that I was very much raised to speak out when things weren't okay, to speak out when I felt like I was being done wrong, done dirty. But when you speak out against that in your family, it's like, be quiet. Shh, 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 shh. Don't talk back. And so that's difficult. And it can show up in a lot of different areas where when you do finally speak up and say, this is not okay, this is not right, this is wrong, this is injustice, that backlash of people not believing you, people invalidating you. You could lose your job off of that shit. You could lose relationships off of that shit. You can get outcasted from your family off of that shit. So I do think it's one of the hardest things to tap into. And I want to be honest because lately I've been struggling. I would say, probably the last 6 to 8 months, struggling with interacting with the world in the ways I've done in the past. I'm the Instagram live girl. I'm the write an article about the bullshit girl. I'm the let's plan a protest in March girl. Like, I've been a person who, in spite of the obstacles, in spite of the like red flags, please don't say that. No, no, waving them like stop. I've always just found power in the throat chakra energy. I'm like, no, I'm gonna speak. I'm gonna talk my shit. And I've been using this podcast as an audio journal to my healing journey, as a testament to my belief that there is so much power in healing out loud. And I feel like even without the support of tapping into that bravery sometimes and the backlash that comes from it, I've also had a lot of people who've said, thank you for using your voice. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for letting me know your opinion because it's the same shit that I be thinking, but I just couldn't say it. And so I do think that it has been a struggle for me to show up authentically because I do believe in that power. And I do believe that is part of my life journey and my life path to speak up. And so when I think about showing up on social media, I've been noticing a lot of, first and foremost, a lot of fake shit on social media. Just, it's very filtered. It's one thing I think when you filter a photo to make it brighter or adjusting the lighting in a particular way, or even the face filter. Sometimes you be like, look, I got a little acne. Let me smooth that out. Like, but I'm talking about the level of fake where people are literally sharing stories and the stories aren't real. Like they're sharing real life, stories and getting people to feel activated about it and it's not real. Or like, this ageism piece where everybody wants to age backwards and it's just like I remember seeing on Instagram one time, there was this bullshit ass thing where I was scrolling and it was just like me, my mom, my grandmother, and everybody looked like, the grandma looked like she was damn near 22. And it kind of found out they were sisters. And the reason why I'm naming that is like, you might be like, I don't know if that's serious of it being fake, but it is because that means that what we're looking at and what we're scrolling aren't what the people are portraying. So I've been struggling with like, what is real? What is fake? I don't understand. Like, I don't get it. I do not get it. And I think that it's become such a mess of acting and pretending that social media can be a place where people can show up authentically, but you can also curate so much who you are that I truly don't know what the fuck I'm looking at. So I've been thinking about what that means. Like I said, showing up authentically in a virtual space and not being sure like what to believe, what to support, who to support. I'd be like, is this a real fundraiser? I don't know, or people hitting me up and they're like, can you support me? And then a month later I get a message like, oh, this person who you supported is an abuser. I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? And so in addition to the fake shit on social media and people just portraying themselves to just not be true and not be real, there are injustices across the world that is not something that we can ignore. And for me, it's bigger than Palestine. It's bigger than that. Because to be clear, I do not believe that these images of what we're seeing, I do not believe that war should be happening. I do not believe that these things should be funded. When I think about what is happening and I think about the connection to Black liberation, and I think about a lot of activists who are Black liberation activists who are also pro Palestine, that makes sense to me. I think it is important to use your platform to stand with Palestinian people. I also think that it is important to use a platform to be in support of the people in Haiti. I also think that it is important to use your platform to share about the injustices that are happening to the people of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the people of Ethiopia, the people of South Sudan. Free all my niggas is really what it's giving. It's a presidential election year in the United States of America, and motherfuckers don't know what we're gonna do. We genuinely don't know what we're gonna do. And I don't even mean who we're voting for. I mean, what are we gonna do if Biden wins or if Trump wins? Like, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna navigate this? You got the entertainment world in shambles with the exposure after exposure after exposure of abusive celebrity culture. And as a person who is an entertainer, that has made me also pull back because I've just been like, I want people to hear my music. I feel like my music has a message of liberation and also Black joy because they can both exist at once. Okay. It's giving simultaneously. But I also think that there's this layer of, is this an entertainment? Is this an industry I want to be a part of? Like for real, is it? Is this an industry that supports and uplifts Black women? It doesn't look like it. And it never did, but especially now when you're looking at who is on the stand, it's the very people that a lot of us grew up looking up to as icons. And so when I think about the P. Diddy's and when I think about the rap beefs, when I think about all of these things, I'm like, y'all, this is one hell of an industry to be a part of, especially as an activist, especially as a spiritual person. So I struggle with marketing. I struggle with, like, I want people to hear the music that I'm putting out. I think it's a major part of legacy. And I also want the entertainment world to not be in shambles. I want for women to be respected. I want for when Meg the Stallion talks about her story as being a survivor, for her to be respected, right? Like, I want that. I think about apps and the potential ban, and it screams censorship. It screams limiting entrepreneurs who make their music as being an influencer on these apps. I think about being on TikTok and I would try to promote my music, y'all, and it would get flagged. It was my own music. And they were like, you do not have the rights to it. I'm like, I wrote it. Like, I'm part of the ASCAP. Like, it's copywritten. I don't get it. Like, it was, so it's just, and there's more. There's laws against and murders, homicide towards the queer and trans community, specifically the Black queer and trans community. Okay, that is happening in the midst of this. There's continued injustice in the workplace with Black people fighting to be authentic, yet still wanting to be seen as professional and worthy of respect from the white dominant culture. And so I've just been like, this is really difficult when you really think about showing up virtually in these spaces while the world is navigating so much between colonization, incompetent presidents, entertainment celebrity abuse culture, censorship, entrepreneurship limitations, queerphobia, transphobia, anti-Blackness. And so I've just been like, what you're hearing is the hesitation. How do I show up here? How? And this is the thing, y'all. I know that there's this recent thing that's happening, and celebrities are being banned for not talking about a lot of the things that are happening that I mentioned in this podcast. And I really think about that often. And I think about as an activist, and I think about the type of activist that I am, which is a radical person, which released a whole album called Ratchet Revolution, where I got this work music on there, but I talk about domestic violence and I talk about police brutality, right? Like all of that. I don't think that that's everyone's ministry to speak out against injustices. That's something that I've been sitting with. I don't think that's part of everyone's ministry. And I think that I can't speak on behalf of celebrities because I'm not a celebrity, so I don't know what that means. But I do think for regular ass people, non-celebrity ass people, I've been working through not shaming people for not speaking out, because there is a lot to lose. I talked about that in the beginning of this episode. There is a lot to lose. Instead, I shame a society that makes it so high risk to speak out. This is the world that we live in, where when you speak out, you get casted out. Okay? How dope would it be for advocacy and activism truly to be something that we celebrate and that we make sure that we protect the people who speak out against the bullshit? So speak out in a way that considers all of the aspects. Maybe it's having these conversations one-on-one, closed door, offline with loved ones, if that's more of your jam. No matter where you're having them, have them and be aware of what's happening in the world. And I don't just mean outside. I mean what's happening in general in the world. From the war, right? What's happening across the world, what's happening in the country that you're in. Who are the people who are about to be elected into office, right? Who are the people that we're listening to and supporting? But on a deeper level, what's happening in our families? Speaking out against that. What's happening in our friendship groups? So you are in a friendship group and people are hating on each other and not supporting each other and being frenemies, speaking out against that shit too. If you're in a relationship and in that relationship, you don't feel seen, you don't feel loved, you don't feel respected, speaking out against that shit too. I really do feel like it's important to exercise energy in speaking up against the things that ain't right. Because I do think that speaking up has so much power. And I do think that while it is a lot to lose and while there is a lot of high risk, if we can co-create a culture, and even if we can't make that happen in the world, if we can co-create a family group, co-create a friend group, co-create a work environment where there is ease in speaking out against things that don't feel okay, I think that that's one way to start. Because once again, when we make it so high risk, we make it hard for people to speak out. And like I said, I ain't speaking on behalf of celebrities not using their platforms because I don't know what that lived experience is. But I do know that behind closed doors, the censorship is real. And so there is power in learning a few things. It's power in learning and having the courage to be disliked. You can learn to be content with being the villain in someone's story. You can learn to be content in being shadow banned on social media. You can learn to be content to be outcasted from your family. You can learn to have power in speaking out against injustice. You can learn that. And it may come with all of the things that I just mentioned, being villainized, being shadow banned, being outcasted. However, making sure that you're speaking up and advocating, there's power in that. So continue tapping into your power in a way that does feel good for you, because we're talking about regular niggas who got to still work, who got to still maybe say, hey, I want to speak out, against my family. But at the same time, my mom is the only one who is the babysitter. So like not too much, but still try, still find a way to speak up, because even when you do it with strategy, because once again, I'm talking about regular niggas, it still has power in having that level of advocacy and fighting against that conditioning to be silent. Thank you for tapping into the power portal.